It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing John Koch, MBA. He's a Senior Vice President and Chief Executive Officer at Henry Schein's Global Dental Group and Interim Chief Executive Officer of Henry Schein One. He is responsible for overall leadership of the Global Dental Group, including strategic direction, management, and business performance, as well as sales, marketing, operations, business development, and technology solutions. He also leads Henry Schein One and is responsible for the company's comprehensive portfolio of practice management software, patient relationship management solutions, and patient demand generation solutions for dental practices. In addition, he is a member of the company's executive management committee. He brings to Henry Schein a significant track record in leading high-performing, high-profit teams and transforming businesses as company and industry dynamics redefine success. Before joining Schein, he was a senior executive at LabCorp, the world's leading healthcare diagnostic company. Most recently, he served as executive vice president and group president of Covance Clinical Development and Commercialization Services, leading more than 11,000 employees in over 60 countries. He spent 9 years with Charles River Laboratories in various roles of increasing responsibility and scope, ranging from functions such as finance, contracts, proposal development, to operating groups that included project management, clinical monitoring, and medical affairs. He holds a bachelor's of science degree in business administration and finance, as well as a master's of business administration, finance and management degree from Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So did you ever think that when you took this job at Henry Schein that you would have to lead it through a pandemic?
I didn't, Howard. It would be the last of our 2020 plans would not have incorporated a pandemic. But it's amazing the way the dental industry and Henry Schein have weathered, just an amazing storm and one that continues to persist. But it certainly wasn't on the plan for 2020.
Well, you, my gosh, you're sitting at 30,000 feet looking at this dental industry. I mean, you got locations, and I've lectured in probably 50 countries around the world, and I've always see a Henry Schein there, whether you're in Australia or whatever. But I got to tell you why I love Schein the most. I got to be completely honest. Twice in my life, I've been in the middle of nowhere, third world country, missionary dental trip, and all these guys are saying, oh yeah, there's a dental office out there. And out of nowhere, in the middle of the jungle, the nicest building in the jungle is a completely equipped 6-operatory office with every bells and whistle. And it says right there, donated by Henry Schein, Stan Bergman and his wife and whatever. And I just can't believe how, I almost had to take a knee. And when I was in Africa, it was in Tanzania, and I told it was an orphanage for the kids that have that skin depigmentation. Then I told him, I said, my friend, my buddy Stan, he built this dental office. So I took out my iPhone and I said, let's all tell Stan thank you. And I'm thinking all these 300 orphans who are, they're all, 3 foot tall, the little kids. I thought they all understood my English and everything. So I said, okay, on 1, 2, 3, say, thank you, Stan. And I go, 1, 2, 3. And they go, happy birthday to Stan. And they sang the whole birthday song. And I thought, okay, that's good enough. They have no idea what I'm talking about. But my gosh, what an honor. What a cool guy to put a fully equipped dental office in the middle of nowhere. Where does that come from with Stan?
Well, Stan personally is an amazing individual, and certainly one of the reasons I came to Henry Schein several years ago. I think that's just innate in Stan and who he is and who his family, frankly, are, to be honest. And it really is a reflection of the company, Howard. As I thought about my next steps in career several years ago, I was introduced to Stan, and he was captivating, and not only the powerful role that he felt dentistry played, and of course overall health, and that was the first time that concept was introduced to me. But he also talked about the benefits a company should provide society. Of course, meeting various constituents, shareholders being one, but customers and their employees. But it's really talking about what companies and individuals should give back to societies and communities. And he speaks that from the heart, and he lives it in every way, shape, and form in his personal life. And he certainly has brought that into life in the company in every way. And in every country you mentioned, you can go to any branch around the world of a Henry Schein business, and that spirit and the Henry Schein Cares Foundation just comes to life. and the impact that it makes to its local communities. So it's from the heart with Stan. It bleeds to the entire organization in an amazing way.
It really does, and he's got a thing for the poor. He just has a thing for the poor. I think he must realize that he's done really, really well in life, and he just wants to give back to the people who didn't have what I guess he assumes was the same opportunity. Is that where it comes from? Maybe he feels he was born a little luckier circumstances than some growing up in an orphanage.
Well, I think just in talking with Stan on various occasions, I don't necessarily know the core driver of that within Stan, but just a personal belief system that is all about giving back. And he surrounds himself with people. He certainly that you see that in every one of his family members, but the people that are surrounding him on the leadership team and the culture created within the company, it's all about giving back. It's being successful in business and using that success to continue to thrive as a business, but also impacting the communities around you. So I don't know what the personal driver is per se, but he has a wide berth in sharing that view with the organization and others living it out. And I think that's an amazing thing to be a leader that not only can generate so much business success and give to shareholders and other various constituents that are very important, but also give back personally and to those that are less fortunate.
Well, this is Dentistry Uncensored. I don't like to talk about anything that everyone says, duh. So I got to hold your feet to the fire. Everyone wants to know, would you take the vaccine yourself right now today?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Howard. My mother does some psychological counseling. And so she called me up 2 weeks ago and said, Jonathan, I've been offered, mom calls me Jonathan, never John, always calls me Jonathan. And she said, I've been offered an opportunity to take the vaccine. What should I do? And I said, Mom, schedule your appointment as fast as you can. And I came from the pharmaceutical industry. This is all my personal view, and seeing the rigor that's placed behind drug development, understanding what the pharmaceutical companies and regulators have done to bring these vaccines to market. My personal advice to my own mother, and it would be myself and my wife and son as well, would be to take the vaccine at the earliest convenience.
So, my gosh, how many countries are you in, and how many dentists did you sell them one thing in 2020? Would you say around the globe?
Well, we as a company, I guess, including dental and medical, serve over 1 million customers in a year's plus of time. So the reach of Henry Schein is amazingly wide. Of course, dental being a smaller portion of that, but the reach is very, very wide and across a few dozen countries, Howard. With bigger impact or footprint in the U.S. and other geographies, but it's very, very wide. About 1 million customers for the entire corporation.
So nobody sees the dental industry on a global scale. I mean, there's 8 billion people. I think there's about 1 million dentists that practice like we do in the U.S. and Canada, and about 1 million dentists at a more different level. I mean, look at smartphones. I got a smartphone. If 8 billion people were reduced to 3, one has a smartphone, one has a cell phone with no internet connection, one has nothing. And I would say there's about 1 million treating the cell phone user to the smartphone, and about 1 million treating the people who have no phone or anything. Do you agree with those numbers macroly?
At a broad level, Howard, I think that hangs. I think just broad math, probably.
So you think that's a good number?
I think so.
So based on your 30,000 feet, 2020, I mean, we had to shut down 2 months. So when you're closed 2 months out of 12, you're down 16.66% for last year. Do you think now that there's a vaccine rolling out, England is saying they're vaccinating 100,000 people a minute? I can't even wrap my mind around that. Do you see light at the end of the tunnel? And do you think 2021, it's just February, it's just January 18th. Do you think 2021 is going to be a lot better than 2020 for dentists around the world? Or do you still see a lot of challenges?
Well, I certainly, the stats for the U.S. as well as I do, and probably a few other countries around patient traffic still recovering, right? So I think we're still, and the industry's in a recovery mode in terms of patient traffic. but I do think things are shaping up for continued recovery. And certainly the long term prospects for dentistry, Howard, I think a number of things have shown through just the resilience of dentistry during the COVID pandemic. What practitioners did, I mean, they took, even when they were down and really had to be at dramatically reduced volumes, they invested in practices, right? They thought about patient flow, they thought about workflow, they thought about how to be more efficient, more effective. Even with new and additional safety protocols, how do they provide the best experience, the safest experience for patients and, of course, their staff? And I just think that speaks volume to the positive long-term outlook for dentistry. And of course, we probably even better than I do, just the ties between oral health and total body health and the increasing importance and awareness of it. So I think the long-term prospects are very strong.
And put on your dad hat. I don't know. Are you married, kids, and how old?
Yeah, we have a son. Married with a son.
And how old's your son?
He's 15.
Oh, he's 15. Well, let's pretend he's 25. And instead of a son, a daughter. This is your imaginary daughter who's 10 years older than your son. And she just graduated from dental school right up the street from me, AT Still, or my gosh, right here in Phoenix, Arizona. And she's got $400,000 in debt. And she looks at old guys like me, who's, going to turn 59 this year, like, Howie, you got out in the golden years. I mean, that was good times. Now you got $400,000 of debt. I'm in the middle of a pandemic. I got DSOs taking over dentistry. And sometimes she thinks that maybe she made a bad idea going into dentistry. What would you tell a young graduate with $400,000 in debt waking up this morning thinking, what the hell's going on?
Well, I think a lot of graduates these days, and in dental, you may be burdened with more debt, but I think there's a lot of graduates maybe feeling some of those same pressures around did they make the right educational or career choice. But I would say it absolutely is. The importance of oral health only gaining in understanding and broader contribution in terms of healthcare. I do think with the advent of certain technologies, Howard, which you're very familiar with, how efficient, how effective dentistry can be, is only going to increase. And I think the flexibility that can be offered through a career in dentistry, just in terms of work-life balance, is probably unmatched in a number of circles, including healthcare. So maybe the burdens may feel heavy, but I think the choice is certainly right, Howard.
I mean, it's been going strong for 200 years, ever since Pierre Fichard in France wrote the first textbooks. I mean, France ran with it for 100 years, and we had G.V. Black. I mean, I just, man, when someone has a toothache, they don't care about the entire population of China. They just want their tooth fixed, and they're just they're just in on it. When I got out of school, or when I was in school, it was kind of a man's profession. Like when I grew up on the west side of Wichita, all my idol dentists were men. I never knew there was a dentist who was a woman. I mean, Kenny Anderson, Prepard Pencil, Dr. Peltzer, Knutz, and all of them, Dr. Orth, they were all men. And my class kind of was having a lot of women introduced to it. And now it's half women. What do you think about the change of being majority men to now half and half, men and women, the diversity, the inclusion? It seems to be a lot of social issues about diversity and inclusion and all that kind of stuff. How do you think that's taking hold in dentistry, and what does that mean for dentistry in the future?
Well, first of all, I think it's critically important, just foundationally, that those that serve communities, serve the public, are a reflection of those they serve. And so, the fact, and it's wonderful that over 50% of graduates nowadays are female, and there's a growing body of ethnic diversity within the graduating community as well. I think that it's very, very important to ensure that we're giving patients the environment and the experience that they feel as ideal, as a better reflection of them. So I think it's a wonderful trend, and hopefully one that only continues to grow and accelerate, which by all signals, just in terms of those who are enrolling and taking that as their primary educational focus, it will. I think it's a strong step for the industry, Howard. I really, really do. And just the offshoots of that, the ability to serve different communities, the ability to serve different patients in a preferred style will benefit the industry. It will greatly benefit the industry.
And I think they have a big advantage because I raised 4 sons, and I noticed that every time, you know, dad was all cool and all that stuff. But if you ever fell down and got an owie and got your fingers bleeding, you'd run clear around dad or down between his legs, or you'd try to find mom. And it just seems like we sell the invisible. I mean, you know what a bottled water is, you know what an iPhone is, but when I tell you have 4 cavities, it comes to trust. And all the research I see is that people trust women more than men. I mean, if you got a suit and tie on, they think there's probably a commission involved. And I don't know. I see with women dentists, the mom who makes 85% of all appointments more relaxed and asking her questions about little Billy. I think if she doesn't agree, if I tell her, well, you need a root canal, she just might think, oh man, she might just keep it inside. But if you're a woman, she's just like, she just more talks. I think their advantage is so heavy. In fact, in my 32 years, every time a woman dentist has told me she wanted an associate, I said, it has to be a woman. You got to keep that brand, woman dentistry, and show your pictures. I mean, they're afraid of the dentist. Who do you think would give you a more painful shot? Me or any normal woman who has maternal instincts? I mean, I think they have a huge advantage and could literally take over dentistry if they played their cards right. So, dentistry, I feel like I've lived through many revolutions. When I was in graduating from high school in '80 and went to Creighton, it was more a chemistry revolution, and they were learning adhesive dentistry, and there were books written on adhesive dentistry. And when I was in dental school, it was an amalgam restoration, and it was a full gold crown. And the new kid on the block was this porcelain laminated over the gold. This porcelain fused the metal, but the adhesion revolution, the chemistry revolution, made all these adhesive products, which then gave birth to the cosmetic revolution, which was very, very big. I mean, you had companies like Bob Ganley at Ivoclar and Bill Dickerson at LVI, and the cosmetic revolution was just huge. And it was going on at the same time of this new digital revolution. And I was right here in Phoenix with Intel up the street, and I can't believe the sales pitch I got. But when I opened my dental office, the guy told me, he said, now, this runs on an Intel 286, but I'll tell you what, they just came out with a 386, and if you pay more money for the 386, it'll be the last computer you'll ever need. That thing is so big and so powerful. So I'm like, I'm paying for the 386. That thing didn't even last. I mean, remember when the Pentium came out?
Oh, yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
my God, it's been a revolution in digital technology. And, when you go back to the CAD CAM, which I don't really think took off. I mean, in 1945, when they started dental insurance with the American Longshoremen's Club, and they decided to cover X-rays at 100%, dentists weren't even using Rentgram's miraculous invention of the X-ray. But as soon as Delta Dental covered it at 100%, my God, everybody bought a dental X-ray machine. When X-rays went to digital, everybody bought a digital X-ray machine. But some things like CAD/CAM, they seem to not ever get to like 15%. And I watched that, and a lot of that slow growth was because of the limits of the chip. But as the chip got more and more powerful, then CAD/CAM eventually reached critical mass. So did CBCTs. And I mean, we're in the middle of this continuing digital revolution. And I know you know it because you're the head guy of Henry Schein One, and you've been buying all kinds of partnerships with internet brands, which include DemandForce, Sesame Communications, OfficeSite, DentalPlans.com, DentalFine. I mean, so you're just leading the world and grabbing all these dental internet companies. What does that look like for you in the future?
Well, Howard, and you mentioned so many great organizations and products that really are a picture of our vision as you think about the digital environment that we exist in today, and the whole business process of dentistry, as well as, of course, the treatment of dentistry. There's a visual lens that is all digital, right? You think about in the future how we should identify patients that have a need, our prospective patients, how we engage them, educate them about a provider's capabilities, help them understand why that provider may be a good match. when they come into the office, how do you engage them with digital aids and support either pre or post visit? How do you run the practice with practice management solutions, digital workflows? And then how do you maintain ongoing follow-up and engagement with that patient, as well as, of course, executing all the business processes, revenue cycle management? We view all of those elements have threads that should be bound. We believe that there should be a seamless interaction between those multiple steps in dentistry, both the business and the clinical aspects. They should be seamless. They should be easy to use. They should be intuitive. And historically, a lot of organizations have approached those very piecemeal, and they haven't thought about the happy marriage of each of those technologies from a user perspective and from an effectiveness perspective. So Henry Schein One was built on the vision that you really can have an end-to-end solution, both for the business and the clinical aspects, and create that in a way that it provides an exceptional patient experience, which we all see. So set aside dentistry for a moment. We all want a seamless experience as consumers or users of business services. And people want the same from dentistry, both those that deliver and partake in it, but also the recipients of it. And so that's the vision behind Henry Schein One, a very powerful set of technologies oriented towards the efficiency and the effectiveness of the practice and a great customer experience. And that's where we're headed, and we're making great strides.
So is the Henry Schein's technology nucleus all wrapped up into Henry Schein One? Is that the digital internet core?
It really is. So just the practice management solution, patient relationship management, even patient demand generation, that they all come together in revenue cycle management as a nucleus that many other services and capabilities and equipment and digital equipment can be plugged into. But that Henry Schein One really is the nucleus of our technology.
So let me read your the description of Henry Schein One off of LinkedIn. Henry Schein One is the world's largest dental practice management software company. Founded in 2018, Henry Schein One launched a new era of integrated dental technology by merging the market-leading practice management, patient communication, and marketing systems of Henry Schein and internet brands into one company. Our goal to simplify each aspect of dental practice management by delivering software that connects with each other, shares data, and automates more tasks, helping each member of the dental team work smarter and more efficiently. Headquartered in American Fork, Utah, Henry Schein One combines market-leading brands such as Dentrix Ascend, Lighthouse 360, and Tech Central, as well as Henry Schein's international dental practice management systems, including Software of Excellence, Lodges, Cell, Julie, Infomed, Exan, LabNet, with the dental business of internet brands, including web-based solutions such as Demandforce, Sesame Communications, OfficeSite, and Dental Plans, and more. Henry Schein One integrated 13 companies, 40-plus software brands, and employs 1,500 people. My God, you don't go slow, do you?
No, we don't. And the importance of those brands and each of those platforms, Howard, is that we know different customers have different preferences. And so some love different facets of our different practice management solutions, or our patient relationship management, or our patient demand generation tools. So we want to provide a diverse offering, but at the same time, one, Howard, that integrates. And that really is our drive to become one, and that customers can choose a different combination of our tools that they feel are best suited for their needs, but to have that in an integrated fashion so it doesn't feel disjointed, so it feels easy for their team, their staff themselves to actually work with on a daily fashion. And providing choice, but then ease of use is a mantra within the team.
And I'm so impressed with Utah because, you think of something like this, like Henry Schein One, it'd have to be Silicon Valley or New York City where you're at. And my gosh, people forget that Utah has its own Silicon Valley. We call it the Silicon Slopes, and we even did an issue on it in Dentaltown, the new state of dentistry, thanks to a myriad of factors, including its world-renowned powdery snow. Utah's community of dental companies continues to thrive. I mean, and Dentrix was really I mean, it started there. I remember going up to see Gordon once a month when I got out of school in '87, and we'd always stop by the Henry Schein deal and the the Dentrix deal, and the big excitement was Microsoft just released Microsoft 3.0, and that was the game changer. But my gosh, I mean, look what's up there on those slopes: American Sleep Dentistry, Angie's Dental Supply, Arrowhead Dental Lab, B&D Dental Corp, Boom Cloud Dental Membership Software, Business Promotion, CAO Group out of West Jordan, Cottonwood Orthodontics Lab, Curve Dental, Dental ATM, Dental Intel, Dental Marketing Net. Gordon Christian, the god of dentistry, is there, who, when you die, he'll be sitting up there with all your charts. Henry Schein Dentrix, Jive Communications, Matex, My Social Practice, Oratech, Ortho Select, Pioneer Lasers, Podium, Precision Dental Products, Prosper Healthcare Lending, Riverside Dental Studio, Tuttle Numb Now, who's got like 5,000 posts on Dental Town, Dan Fisher's Ultradent Products, Wave Ortho, Weave, Whitecap, Clear. I mean, my God, that's like the dental Mecca and Medina all rolled into one. Is Utah ground zero for dental internet?
Personally, Howard, I think it is. I can, between the drive from the airport to our office in American Fork, I count 20 dental companies that I see along there, dental technology companies, so let alone other dental-related organizations there. It really is. It's the hub of the United States for dental technologies from a software and services perspective, and only growing. I mean, the number of companies that spawn there, the number of partnerships that we have there continues to grow. It's an exceptional place for talent, innovation, and it's a great and highly productive community in terms of software development. So we've been very fortunate. We couldn't have seen what it would become. We're very fortunate to have our foundation, our roots there.
And you know who really gets all the credit for that, but he never gets any credit for it? Who was that billionaire Idaho farmer? J.R. Simplot, billionaire potato farmer. J.R. Simplot, which basically rose to claim and fame because McDonald's couldn't figure out why, when they bought potatoes with their first 10 locations in Southern California, that they came out all crispy and dry. And then when they started franchising McDonald's and went back east, and then they got to like Indiana and Illinois, the French fries were soggy. And Ray Kroc thought somebody was playing games with him, but it was J.R. Simplot who said, okay, it's difference in humidity, storage in a shed. So he pioneered the flash freezing. We're gonna harvest these potatoes, we're gonna trim them, cut them, but we're just gonna bake them for like 15 seconds. That'll lock in everything, and we're gonna flash freeze French fries. I know this because my dad had 9 Sonic drive-ins, and we had to peel 100 pounds of potatoes about every 4 to 6 hours, and then turn them into French fries and cook them. And the frozen French fry thing. I mean, if you thought the garage door opener and the remote control was pretty cool, because I was my dad's remote control 80 times an hour. Oh, change it to 3. No, go back to 10. No, go to 12. And then if there was a storm, I had to stand there and hold the ears because for some reason your body ground it. But Simplot was the one who said the future was high tech, and he wanted to make RAM and DRAM chips and all this stuff. And he made Utah and Idaho start massively rammed up their engineering and programming departments. And now, if you go open up in Utah or Idaho and you need a programmer, you need a high tech guy, there's thousands of them. And it was from J.R. Simplot, who, my favorite line for him, they said, "Are you going to ever run for governor or senator of Idaho?" And he says, "Why should I? I already own all 3 of them." only a cowboy potato farmer for Idaho would make a statement like that. So what is so you got the number 1 selling practice management software, Dentrix. I mean, it just owns its space. And I thought it was pretty amazing that Patterson, which would have the number 2, would have Eaglesoft out of Effingham, Illinois, right next to Rick Workman of Heartland Dental, who owns 1,000 dental offices. It was just all natural for him to go Eaglesoft, but he even went Dentrix, which was pretty tough when you're in a small of 10,000 to tell the other major dental company you're going with another brand. But so Dentrix is going to be probably the platform that everything connects into.
You know, we feel really, really good. Several years ago, a number of years ago now, Howard, we started our development of our cloud-based portfolio, which the heart of it is Dentrix Ascend. And that rotation to the cloud and what it enables from a scalability, security, seamless updates, and simplicity for practices, and just familiarity with user interfaces is really unmatched. And we've seen really strong market adoption and interest in Dentrix Ascend, in addition to, of course, our core and legacy products. But we view that Dentrix will continue to be the flagship, not only for Henry Schein, but the gold standard that a lot of people point to in the industry. And a lot of that is embedded in how easy we make our products to integrate with one another and then with select partners. So we feel really good about the future, Howard.
And did you, when you buy a company, do you just take it and roll it into something else existing? Or I don't know if you wanted to go through Demand Force, Sesame Communications, Offsite, Dental Plans, and more of all these brands, Dentrix, Dentrix Ascend, Lighthouse 360. Do they all roll into one product, or will they remain individual brands?
So our strategy there is that there are unique facets to each of these products, right? And they have followings. I mean, some have tens of thousands of users that are really wedded to certain elements of those products. They just have preferences. And so what we want to do is we believe there are efficiencies to be found and frankly, best practices and best technologies to be harmonized across these multiple brands. But at the same time, we're going to maintain, for most part, the unique aspects of what customers prefer in that particular brand, why they buy Dentrix as an example, why they choose Lighthouse as another example, or Sesame. So we'll continue to have multiple brands, even in a single space, such as patient relationship management. But over time, and we've made good strides in this, we'll continue to harmonize the best of those technologies across them and to make them available to all customers. So that's what you'll continue to see for us. Still a multitude of brands tailored toward specific customer requests or preferences, but leveraging the best aspects between them.
When you look at a dental office, I've had mine in Phoenix for 32 years. What do you, when you look at Henry Schein One, where do you see the most challenges for the dentist? Is it clinical stuff, so you need more CBCTs and dental technology? Is it more the business, the fact that, we got to pay all these employees and it's fee for service, private practice, and DSOs? Is it more management tools? Would you say it's more clinical or management that dentists challenge with the most?
Well, we see, just trying to think if we've done some recent market research, and I'm trying to think if it would yield a different answer. But Howard, there's actually pretty prominent needs on all three fronts. And it really depends upon where you're at as a practice and your comfort with digital technologies. Howard, you know the adoption rates or the penetration rates around certain technologies, whether it's digital impression or restoration or other tools, even a seamless practice management solution where people are just dipping their toe in the water. So adoption is still relatively modest with certain technologies. So for some practices, Howard, it's even taking that first step into digital technologies such as digital impressioning or using a more wholly integrated practice management solution. So I would say for them, the challenge is taking the first step. So we are engaging customers and making that more comfortable and maybe a familiar series of steps for them. I would say there are also practices, Howard, that really they have some great technologies clinically and maybe from a business perspective, but they're not integrating them. They're really actually not using those technologies to their fullest potential. And they're using a lot of workarounds. Maybe they don't understand the technologies, their fullest capabilities and how they should be used. So that's a second bucket. So you have the person that hasn't stepped digital. You have those that have, but really haven't thought about the interconnectivity between all the products. And then Howard, to that last point, there still are a number of steps from a business perspective, Howard, where we feel, whether it be in revenue cycle management or just managing the marketing and the sales related activities within the dentistry world, organizations really haven't advanced their practices or the use in technology from those perspectives, Howard. So I think there are three buckets, three distinct needs. And again, I think we're pretty well positioned, but dentistry still has a good length to go to fully leverage technology. It's not just clinically, it's not just business, it's both, Howard.
I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. Could you tell me the three fronts of dentistry again?
Where I think there are people that just really haven't embraced digital from a clinical perspective, right? They're not using certain tools. They haven't upgraded to 3D. They haven't really delved into digital impressioning. So I would say there is a world there where people are still making the decision to take a step. And we've seen that accelerated, by the way, with COVID. As people have thought about, how do I become more efficient, more effective? How do I reduce certain touch points or optimize processes? I need to be thinking more digitally. So that's the first bucket, those people that need to take the step. The second bucket is people that have bought certain technologies, software or physical technology, but they actually haven't optimized the use of those, Howard. They're using good and leading tools, but they haven't thought about the interconnectivity between them. That's the second bucket. And then the third is really on the business front.
What would the second bucket be called most succinctly?
I just think it's using technology optimally or
Optimizing
in an interconnected
technology
fashion, integrating those technologies.
Okay.
They may be using clunky workflows to get imaging into certain systems, or really not leveraging the full potential of a practice management solution to aid workflows. So there's an optimization. And then the third is from a business, whether it be revenue cycle management and billing, or it could be just practice marketing and patient engagement. They're really not being as forward as they could be about really extolling the benefits of their practices, engaging patients, and managing those relationships.
That's really nicely succinct. So you're saying going forward, the three fronts of dentistry is to confront digital, optimizing your technology, and revenue management.
I think so. I think so. There's opportunities on all three fronts that we see.
And you and I both have an MBA, and I keep telling these kids, by the way, this laptop I'm on, the first laptop I bought was in 1998, and it was because I signed up for night school at ASU to get my MBA. I went every Monday and Wednesday night from 6 to 10, and they had 2 classes a trimester, so it was 6 classes a year, 12 for an MBA. And it just changed my world, and I can't. And by the way, I took those notes with my laptop, and when I was done, I ranted out my lecture, and it was 30 hours. I made it the 30-day dental MBA. It's on iTunes. It's on YouTube. It's really amazing how I did that in 98, and it's still downloaded like 1,500 times a month on just iTunes. And every time a young dentist tells me he's watched it not once but twice or 3 times, I always say, well, that was 1998. Was it still relevant for you? And they always say, well, is algebra still relevant for you? Is geometry? I mean, it's just like it's a classic, timeless piece. And that's why these kids really got to understand business, because when I hear like some people say, there should be no copayment in healthcare, it's like, oh, what? So we're supposed to go all the way back to Adam Smith in 1776 when a 32-year-old Scot wrote The Wealth of Nations till 2020, where University of Chicago has 20 Nobel Prize-winning economists, and we're just supposed to take all of economics and throw it away because now Captain Obvious thinks there should be no copayment? What, prices don't matter? Incentives don't matter? I mean, there's a lot of things in business that unless Sapien just turned into a mermaid or a unicorn, there's a lot of hallmarks of business over the last 2 centuries that probably aren't going to go away anytime soon. So if you're so listen to that 30-day MBA. I mean that's a 2-year MBA program, and if that motivates you, go sign up for it, because I don't think you ever see the world differently when you're an MBA. Was it a big part of your life and your ascent to the highest reaches in the Fortune 500?
Well, sure was, Howard. For me, it just gave, frankly, maybe comfort or a broader textbook to call upon to face different business circumstances or situations. And Howard, you mentioned on those 3 fronts. I mean, one of the things that the practices are being given now is business intelligence and business analytics, right? And some of those things are made very, very easy in terms of dashboards and various insights relative to your practice. But at the same time, if you're not comfortable with some elements of those business either terms or approaches or data, it can be a little bit intimidating. So I think it's going to become easier in certain ways to gain the insights that you need to take the action, but you also need the teaching, the education to make sure that you're applying those in the way that's best for your practice. So I think your MBA, by the way, which has been pointed to by a number of colleagues as a fantastic resource for many people. I think that's why it's still relevant even today. People need that information. That's a core basis, and I would strongly encourage people that are interested in business doing an MBA, getting coursework, just to make them feel comfortable with the business challenges that they're facing today.
And I've brought this up to Stan every time I've talked to him. In fact, I flew out to Melville on a red-eye flight and flew all through the night. When I got to his office, it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and they weren't even open yet, and I fell asleep outside the front door. This is like 1999, and I had just launched Dental Town. But I think one of the biggest business challenges is that I know my homies, they have all their dentistry, patients, insurance billing on Dentrix. That's the lion's share. That's half the damn market. But all their other data is in Quicken, QuickBooks Pro. They do their tax on TurboTax. And it's almost like there's two split personalities here. And I just cannot wait till TurboTax and Quicken just seamlessly integrate with the practice management technology. I mean, you know what's so bizarre is when I was 10, are you old enough to remember National Cash Registers, NCR, that later got rolled
NCR.
into IBM? So my dad, when I was 10 and he had a Sonic drive-in, that cash register, when someone brought in 50 boxes of meat, we entered it in the cash register, all the sales. And at the end of the day, that little paper roll, he'd hit print. It'd say, okay, Dad, you collected $2,000 a day. Your food cost was 18%. Your crew management was 31%, yada, yada, yada. And you netted, $1,416. I mean, I feel like I would rather have a national cash register with the little paper roller all on one system than having these two separate systems that, you got to connect them with dashboards. You got to connect them with all these things because they're just not on the same page. And I think, gosh, if Intuit could just roll in there. And Bill Gates was on that road. He tried to buy Intuit because he knew Microsoft was about standards, and he had Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and he tried to do the Quicken thing, but the other Bill Clinton, thought it was too much anti-competitive or whatever, and I think that was the worst block by a government for free enterprise ever, because that's the brain, man. That's the management information system. And my homies, I mean, I'll go up to in a dental office and they'll have the same hygienist for 5 years. You know the hygienist, you know which one is the oldest one there because she always gets room 1. And, nobody's, all the new ones go to room 2 or 3. And she'll walk out and she'll just did a cleaning, exam, and bite wings. And I'll say, hey, doc, did you just net $5.19 after taxes, or did you lose $19? And he has no idea. And then he says, well, we're so busy, I'm thinking about getting another hygienist. I said, well, how much do you charge for a cleaning exam and x-ray? He tells me the price. I'm like, dude, you signed up for 9 PPOs, and the price you just gave me for a cleaning exam and x-rays, that price is higher than any of the prices you've even agreed to. And you're selling it anywhere from, these 9 prices, and from let's say the highest price was 100 and the lowest one was 50. I said, well, if you're charging 100 and had 50% overhead, you'd make $50. But if you don't have 50% overhead, I mean, I can literally, it takes me a whole day to show them how many hygienists they would have to declare bankruptcy. And this is a guy who knows physics and chemistry and cosine, sine, and tangent. These are some of the smartest people I know. And then you go to a 7-Eleven, and the practice management software is so integrated with the business that somebody who never went to college and doesn't know geometry or trig knows their costs and overhead. So that's something I hope really takes over in the future. And it must be taking over because if you were able to get Heartland Dental with the most dental offices on Dentrix Ascend, I mean, how much more endorsement would you need than Rick Workman in Effingham using Dentrix? I mean, is that your biggest flagship proof that Dentrix can run a dental business?
Well, I think it's an excellent example, Howard. And to your point, I mean, the bright organization that makes, certainly vets software and technologies in amazing depth. So we're pleased with the relationship that we have with organizations all across the industry that really do point to the fact that they believe Dentrix is the right platform, the right technology for them for today and tomorrow. The one thing coming back to your point, Howard, if financial system makers don't create some of those tools or integration points, which there are some that exist today, but they're not optimal, the industry will, Howard. The industry will create data draws and repositories and things to continue to give dentists the right insights to make not only the right clinical decisions, which they're exceptional at doing, but increasingly building upon their ability, which again, many do well today, but we're missing certain pieces of information from a broader business perspective. That will happen. I know HS1 will play a role in that, but the broader technology providers in the space will. And we're happy to help lead the way in that through business intelligence and analytics and business management and revenue cycle management systems. So I think you raise a great point, but it's one that we can solve.
So Dentrix is for a sole practitioner, one office location, and Dentrix Ascend would be your group practice.
So you have Dentrix, which is used by single practitioners and as well as group. You have Dentrix Enterprise, which has certain attributes which are specifically catered towards large organizations, large groups, institutions, Howard, and certainly DSOs. And then Dentrix Ascend, Howard, which is our cloud-based product, actually is used across the continuum, from the smallest to very, very large organizations with hundreds and hundreds of practices. So we really do cover the gamut, so to speak, in terms of our offering.
And are any DSOs currently on Dentrix Ascend in a cloud-based solution?
They are.
Any names you can share?
We don't talk specifically about customers, Howard, but we have a number of large.
Just text me. Just text me the name, and I'll never out you as a source. And then when you so for revenue management, all that, I cannot tell you how much I recommend. Just go to MBA school, and now there's a lot of universities because of the pandemic that have put their online courses for free online. You would not even comprehend what MIT put online. They went back to just a treasure trove of classes from astronomy to physics. I mean, it's just mind-boggling, and it's all free. I have patients all the time telling me that if you want to learn how to be a programmer, there's so many free places on the internet that teach programming. And in fact, all 5 of my programmers have been with me since like 1999. Not one of them went to school for programming. One was an exercise physiologist. One was an engineer. One was a French history major, go figure. And they all bought that Programming for Dummies book and switch careers. And now it's all on the internet, so you can learn this stuff all day long. So when we go back to the dental digital adoption rates, gosh darn, I think the X-ray machine had to be first, going all the way back to 1945, and the adoption of that was amazing. How far along as the adoption rate of the next most adopted things? Would the next one be digital X-rays? Would that be or would it be practice management software?
Actually, I don't know if I've seen those compared, Howard, but adoption rates being quite high, being very, very high for both, or quite high.
And so digital X-rays, digital. Do you agree that CAD/CAM kind of hit a wall at 12%, and we're not seeing that with the iOS digital scanners? I mean, I think digital scanning is going to blow way past CAD/CAM.
Well, I think to your latter point, just COVID being a great example, Howard, we certainly saw stronger interest and, practices moving towards scanning over the last couple of years. COVID has increased both the interest and the pace of adoption and purchase. Even if practices aren't purchasing today, they are far, far closer to that decision of doing so. And we just think it's a matter of time, Howard. It will continue to accelerate.
So,
And CAD/CAM is it's a personal choice, right, with what a practice is trying to achieve and what they'd like to offer as services for their customers. But we see DI as a logical step for almost any setting.
so you're calling it DI for digital impression instead of IOC for intraoral scanner, iOS?
Yes.
But you're calling it DI. Is that the new Urban Dictionary
no,
cool
actually,
thing?
Largely interchangeable. So we'll go with yours.
And then I want you to relish my fantasy and lie to me if you have to. But I keep thinking that AI is going to be a big breakthrough. That when you're looking at numbers and you got some in Quicken and TurboTax and practice management, that because I've seen what my natural intelligence has done for me for 58 years and humanity for the last 5,000, and I'm not very impressed. And I keep thinking this AI, this Obi-Wan Kenobi held in my hand, is going to help me make all these amazing, great decisions. Is that 10 years off, 20 years off, 50 years off? Is it hype? Or do you see AI sneaking in now?
Howard, you look at even some of the technologies. I don't want to point to a specific technology, but many, many technologies are setting the stage for it, Howard. They're collecting the right data. And Howard, one point to make relative to the cloud, these cloud-based systems allow the aggregation and study of data in ways that historically individual, localized, locally hosted technology doesn't provide for. And so the ability to aggregate data, to study it, to then use artificial intelligence, machine learning, to actually put forward insights for clinicians and business people to consider, that's in part here today, and it certainly is going to pick up pace. And Howard, I don't think it's 10, 15 years out. I think we will see bits and pieces of it introduced in a handful of years. And dentistry as a whole will be aided by it within certainly the next 5 to 10. And I suspect you'll see pieces of it much sooner than that. And there are examples on the market. I don't want to point to specific products, but it's here, Howard, and it will grow in terms of its impact.
Socrates said that man only had 2 emotions, greed or fear, but I think it took a couple thousand years later before Darwin said, well, it's actually predator or prey. And the thing about cloud-based solutions that I would be most interested in is with all the hacking going on and all the, there's lawsuits right now where a big DSO, someone stole 1 million of their names and addresses and phone numbers, but is that cloud-based solution with Dentrix Extend? If someone hacks into me and violates all the HIPAA stuff, am I the individual on the hook for that, or is that something that Dentrix Ascend owns and is responsible for? If I'm on your cloud-based solution, who's the unlucky guy?
Well, there's a lot of intricacies in what you had asked, Howard. I think what I would probably point to or mention is you think about it, Howard, with the responsibilities of a practice for having to maintain every single facet of their hardware and system security when it just resides locally. There's just a breadth of things that a practice, and we have tools and support that aid customers in doing that. But there are certain benefits maybe of local presence and being locally hosted, but there's so many benefits for operating via the cloud, including that scalability, security, and rapid updates to security technology and encryption and protection for patient records. Howard, I just can't extol enough the benefits, and certainly long-term, of cloud-based technologies. And those include security, right? And reduced burden on the local practice for having to contemplate all the things and making sure it's doing all of its responsibilities with respect to data and systems and technology protection. So I think more and more people will get comfortable with the cloud, and they really will see the benefits, including security.
I know you're busier than a one-armed dentist, and I went over my hour, but I still got some overtime questions. Are you good to stay for a little bit more, or do you got to run?
Maybe a question or two.
Okay, okay. Oh my God, down to a question or two. Um, where should I go with that? What my homies want to know is this. When HIV came out, I mean, that was 1979. That pandemic went on to kill 36 million people. It was just horrible and devastating, but it changed dentistry. It made us wear gloves. We got rid of the cuspidor. We had quit having water come from the street all the way to our handpiece, bottled water. There was a lot of significant changes we made that made us really prepared for this pandemic. And so now I want to know is what did the homies buy that you think are here to stay for infection control and change dentistry versus what are some that'll probably go away? Might have been hype, like say a negative air pressure room, things like that. But what is Henry Schein seeing in the field that dentists say, I need this because of the pandemic and it's probably never going to go away and it's here to stay? What are they buying specifically that changed?
Yeah, I would think, if you were to ask our customers what items they would point to and say that that's staying in my office, Howard, I think you're seeing a lot of customers, of course, they have interest in air purification. That's one facet is that as they sat back and thought about what could they do to even enhance, which, by the way, I have to say, dental practices are just exceptional environments in terms of just strong protections for patients and, of course, practice staff. So just kudos to the industry for setting standards and expectations and actually executing those locally to a degree to which you may not see across all of healthcare. But they would point to, certainly air purification technologies. They would point towards minor aids, just change in process. I think one of the bigger things, Howard, is just not only are they using additional technologies such as air purification, but they've changed the practice and the patient and the workflow within their practices. And a number of those things, when you talk to practitioners, they're going to hold because they just think they found ways to optimize, to enhance further on a very good base of patient and staff protection, to take that and further in terms of infection control. But the most readily they would point to would be air purification. Howard.
And do you think you came from the laboratory world? I mean, Covance's research and development laboratories. Now dentists are saying, "Will I be able to test my patients for COVID antibodies? Or should I be getting the vaccine? What about diagnostic tests in general? You every time you go to your physician, he always runs a battery of tests. And I've been screaming for 32 years that it was unconstitutional that when I go to one of these big lab corps and say I want to check my for diabetes, they say, well, you need a physician's prescription for that. And I'd say, well, that's not right. Well, Arizona finally agreed because during the pandemic, so now you can just go into any blood drawing place and order your own tests. And I just found out yesterday I'm not pregnant, that I'm actually just really fat. But do you see the future being a lot more lab tests in dentistry?
Howard, we do. We do think there will be more testing introduced into a dental practice environment. It just makes sense with the education, the qualifications that staff have in dental practices. There are some requirements and certain considerations, no doubt, that'll take time to work through. And then, of course, things differ by geography, which we also need to be sensitive to. But to see more diagnostic testing introduced into a dental setting certainly makes sense, and it's something that we're working on with various parties across the industry. So we're very supportive and think it'll be a part of dentistry going forward and their contribution to healthcare.
Okay, my final question, I swear, and if I ask another one, you just walk out the door and slam it away. My last question is, when I grew up with my dad, he bought his first Sonic when I was 10, and I broke his heart leaving that and going to college to go be a dentist. My gosh, the value chain was one family. I mean, the guy that my dad bought $1 million of meat from every year, the hamburger guy, the buns guy from Rainbow and Wonder Bread, and the value chain was just always on the same table. And then I got out of dental school and I realized that on the dental value chain, like the dental insurance, like Delta would give you like $400,000 a year, and they'd only hear from you one time because you didn't cover something, and the letter would start always like, "Hey, you horrible person, blankety blank blank, I can't believe you didn't cover that." And it's like, dude, why don't you go sell the employer a bunch of insurance? And the dentists would just, they had these egos that they couldn't fit through a door, and to this day, the ADA and Delta are both in Chicago. But when I podcast interview the head economist, I'm like, well, a lot of these dental questions, like how long does a composite last? How long does an amalgam last? They're all debates on Dental Town for 20 years. You're right next door to Delta, who has data on billions of claims. This could be answered instantly. And they go, yeah. And Vikajic's like, yeah, but I don't know why, but those two parties don't connect. And the reason they don't connect is because dentists are abusive. When I got to Arizona, at the end of the first year, I realized that Ed Judd of Delta Dental of Arizona gave me more money than anybody my first year. So I called him up. I took him out for lunch, and he told me I was like the first dentist that ever was nice and said thank you. And so what could dentists do to get the whole value chain to realize that, I see it as algebra. It's like dentistry, dental manufacturers, distributors, suppliers, university, dental insurance, and it's all divided by the patient. And we're supposed to keep one eye on the patient and one eye on costs, because if we don't use our brains to drive down costs, then the individual human does not have the freedom to afford dental care. And any advice on how the whole value chain could quit arguing about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and keep one eye on the patient and one eye on costs and work together to make dentistry more affordable for all 8 billion sapiens?
Well, it's a fantastic question, Howard. I don't know if I have an answer off the cuff. I would just, saying maybe coming from a different part of healthcare some years ago now, I would encourage much stronger collaboration across the dental environment, that ecosystem that you referred to. If our main goal is really to make dentistry or healthcare more accessible and more affordable, which we all want, deep down in our heart. We need to be working together and reducing some of the barriers that exist in the industry, and that's associations, that's institutions, that's business parties involved in the value chain. We need to be thinking about keeping that patient in focus and making sure that the economics work for all parties. And with those ground rules or those being parts of the goal, so to speak, there are very few barriers that we can actually work through. I just find that we have a lot of room to go in terms of collaboration and doing it in an open format across the industry and in an appropriate format, just knowing that there are certain boundaries. So I would just encourage collaboration, Howard. I think we have a long way to go as an industry in that regard.
So are you in Utah or New York right now?
Believe it or not, I'm actually sitting in Atlanta. We have a place in Atlanta. I spend the bulk of my time when we weren't pandemic limited. We spend the bulk of our time in New York area, in Melville. So, but a lot of things have been restricted, and only a few trips during the pandemic out to Utah to see certain customers, and hoping that those liberties or those freedoms will be restored relatively soon with the vaccine.
Well, you got neat people to go see out there. You got CareStream. You can go see David Westgate. You got Jay Geyer with the Scheduling Institute. Atlanta is a hopping place. I just want to tell you, I know you're so busy, and it's crazy for you to make an hour to come on my show and talk to my homies. But it was just a complete honor to have you come on the show. And best of luck, because wherever Henry Schein ends up, that's going to be where dentistry ends up for the most part. I mean, what's good for Schein is good for dentistry, and what's good for dentistry is good for Schein. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule. And my gosh, good luck, and keep us posted. Come back on the show if you ever got anything big and exciting to tell us.
I sure will, Howard. It's been my privilege and pleasure to be on your show. And frankly, again, thanks to all those watching that have served the American public and well beyond in amazing ways during this pandemic. We just can't thank dentistry enough. So thank you, Howard.
And tell Stan, the man Bergman, thank you for all of those tropical jungle dental paradises. That's just amazing work he's doing. I can't get my hands around that. That is so cool. So have a great day. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Howard. I certainly will, and take care.